On behalf of the National Career Development Association, welcome to our NCDA webinar series. This session is titled The ILPL Digital Presence Framework and Integrating Generative AI. I'm Melissa Venable, NCDA Director of Professional Development, and just a couple things before we get started. During the webinar, please keep your microphones muted. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be posted on the NCDA website and our YouTube channel after the session. I'll also email the link to the recording to all registered attendees. This program is approved for 1 hour of continuing education credit, and for NCDA members, this will automatically be added to your record after the session. So now it is my pleasure to welcome our presenters, Dr. Sheetal Patel and Michael Joyner-Hill. Both represent many roles related to career development and education, and they join us today through their work at Stanford University's Integrative Learning Portfolio Lab. So thank you both so much for being here. I will turn the floor over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Melissa, and thanks to everyone for having us this morning. We're excited to speak with you. We are going to be talking about leveraging AI with your clients, your audience. We know we have folks from higher ed, from corporate, maybe from private practice and coaching. I represent all those roles. I've worked in higher ed, I've worked in corporate, I've done career coaching, I have coached coaching experience as well and clients myself. So we're excited to talk no matter who your audience is. And for ease, we'll just talk about either your audience or client, any of those. But we are going to talk about how do you leverage AI for your clients' digital presence as they may be looking for different opportunities, whether that's promotion, early career, trying to search for a job, etc. As I mentioned, I'm Sheetal Patel. I work in the Integrative Learning Portfolio Lab at Stanford. That's part of Career Ed there. I also work at LinkedIn as well as have my own private coaching practice. So excited to speak with you, and I will let Mike introduce himself.
Thanks, Sheetal. Hey, everybody. I'm Michael Joyner-Hill, also go by Mike. I work at Stanford University. I actually work at Stanford Career Education. I'm one of our associate directors of career coaching and education. I work specifically with the undergraduate and master's populations who are pursuing degrees in humanities and sciences. Also work with some recent alumni as well. I'm really excited to talk about this. I've been a part of the Integrative Learning Portfolio Lab since I started at Stanford about 3 years ago. Been really exciting opportunity, really a great chance to learn from some excellent colleagues and to be able to challenge myself to learn a little bit more about what integrative learning really means and what it looks like. So excited to be with you all today.
And so a couple things to mention. First of all, if you have questions, we'd love to hear them. Go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll try to answer as we go. We'll also try to leave a little bit of time for questions at the end. We also have our other lab members here. So Dr. Helen Chen, Ryan Gatto, as well as Deetra Woods, and we're excited to all be here to be able to talk about AI. All right, with that, I'll hand it back to Mike to talk about a little bit more about our lab.
All right, so you all might be wondering, right? Integrative Learning Portfolio Lab. What is it? What do we actually do? So ILPL does stand for Integrative Learning Portfolio Lab. And for us, we really believe that all students have a story to tell, right? The story that really integrates all aspects of their identities. Now, we aim to empower students to communicate these stories on and offline, really just exercising their ability to write the narrative at school or at work in the ways that they appear when being searched online. Now, ultimately, the goal of our lab is to help students show the value of their identities, right? We want to help students to be able to really demonstrate the value of their experiences really by centering these identities, crafting the story that they want to tell and translating it to the online format so that their target audience, whether it be future employers or graduate schools or anybody else, can see the story when they're not in the room to tell it. Now, just to note, this isn't our normal digital presence presentation. So if you do want a deeper dive, we do have a video series on our website. And we're going to share the link to that website at the end of the presentation. Anybody can view it at any time, and you can also view it at whatever speed. So if you're like a 2x speed person, like some of my colleagues, or you want to try out the new 4x speed that YouTube is rolling out for its premium members to test, go for it.
All right.
So what you see on the screen here, a QR code as well as a link for feedback. So we're really excited about being with you all today to be able to present this information. That being said, for us to be able to kind of sharpen the things that need to be sharpened, but continue the things that work really well, we are going to ask that you all provide feedback. So if you want to scan the QR code now, type in the link in your own browser, you're more than welcome to do so. We are going to show this at the end, though, for you to be able to give us some feedback at the end. So thank you. All right, so let's just jump into things here. So what is digital presence? Well, having a digital presence simply means putting your identity online somewhere, but more specifically, you're intentionally curating a roadmap to how you want people to experience you. And when we're working with students, we're working with all of our various clientele, we often use that phrase, right? You're curating, you're creating a roadmap. For how people want to experience you, particularly in the digital space. And so to say it differently, we often hear that we need to have a personal brand online. Now, a brand simply equals an expected experience. So for example, the Apple brand, right? It's often associated with a good design experience. So having a digital presence simply means putting yourself online in a way that helps others experience you and your identity in the online environment.
Right. So might this be important for your clients or your audience, no matter where they are, if they're high school, college, graduate school, early professional career, mid-career, looking for a promotion, encore career, it doesn't matter. A digital presence is important because it really does a few key things. In actually building it, it helps you reflect on your experiences. And that's the integrative learning part, right? Whether you're integrating school learning, you're integrating experiences from your work or elsewhere, you're really able to reflect on those experiences through the process of really creating that roadmap, right? Who are you? What have you done? How do you want to share that? It helps build a good, long-lasting first impression and also second, third, and fourth impression as well. And it can also help you appeal to different audiences, right? So if your client is looking for different opportunities in different spaces, it can help them appeal to those audiences and can document their career learning. So as many of you may already know, right, we know that employers definitely screen job candidates, but also we've seen that senior managers are impressed when they see a candidate's online portfolio, and that can include for promo as well. So it really spans the gamut of a person's career to really understand how to tell their story online, not just at one particular point, but throughout. So it's a skill to really build. And typically when we have clients try to understand this, it really means opening their mind up to what digital presence means, that it's not just I need a LinkedIn profile to network, right? It's much more than that. And it's helpful to have that conversation with whoever your audience or client is. So let's keep going.
Yeah, so as you all can probably figure from the title of this webinar, our lab does have a digital presence framework. And this digital presence framework, this is what we use in our lab, and it really does guide the work that we do with students, with staff, with faculty, with community members. And so we're really excited to share the framework with you all and walk you all through each stage of the framework and how AI can help you at each stage. So very broadly, this is what the framework looks like, right? We've got 6 stages of the framework. So what's your story now, right? This is really trying to figure out what does my online presence look like currently, right? Not just what's out there that I've put out there, but also how are other folks receiving what I'm putting out there. From there, it's your purpose and your audience, right? Like, what are you doing? Why are you actually doing it? And for who are you actually doing it? From there, we transition to our brand story building blocks. And so trying to think about what are the storytelling strategies that I can utilize to be able to tell my story most effectively to the audiences that I'm most interested in connecting with. From there, it's your evidence. And that's really all about, let me gather some of these artifacts and then let me actually, let me put some meaning to those artifacts. And that's going to create the evidence. And so I'm saying that this is who I am, but what do I have to support that? And that's where the evidence comes into play. From there, it's thinking about the channels in which you want to exist, right? And so, maybe I'm trying to reach a particular audience in a particular way, and they're only on LinkedIn. Okay, so what does my presence look like there? Maybe they're also existing on TikTok. All right, and so now I have to challenge myself to keep up with the Gen Zers, and I've got to figure out what TikTok looks like so that I can curate a digital presence there as well. And then lastly, it's customizing and it's sharing your story. And so it's making sure that the story that you're trying to tell is being told in the way that you want to. And it's also recognizing that this is also an iterative process. And this is something that you can change over time as you evolve, as you gain more skills, more experiences. This can also change. So again, that's just a quick snapshot of what the framework looks like. Now, what we're going to be doing today is really focusing on how AI can help you at each stage of our digital presence framework. Now, I want to be clear here. AI is rapidly developing. Really, before you all even joined the call, Shito and I and Melissa were talking about different things that we're learning, right, constantly. And so we know that today's AI usage can be very different tomorrow. So with that being said, though, we do feel like we've got a pretty good handle on how AI can in its current existence or current state can help us at each stage of the framework. And so given that its uses are continually expanding, we do still feel good about what we're going to do today, and we're excited about sharing with you all how it can be a useful tool at each stage of the digital framework.
All right, now before we get into that, we do have to do some foundation setting in terms of privacy and ethics. And also, this is a good conversation to have with whoever your client and audience is. If you're suggesting they use AI or they're asking about it, some good things to know. There are several AI tools and services out there, and they do have implications and potential risks, especially when it comes to data usage and personal information. So if you are trying to use AI in the way that we're going to be talking about it, it's important to remember that you're putting personal information into these different tools. And you need to understand how it's going to be used. So again, data privacy, understanding each tool, whether you're using it for free or paid, does change how the data is used. So you do want to be careful about sharing, identifiable information like very sensitive information, security numbers, financial details, that kind of thing. What we're going to show you today is pretty light level, so you shouldn't need to put this kind of information in, but just to be aware. Data storage as well, how you enter data, and different AI systems will store it either temporarily or permanently, and they may be learning off of it too. So it's good to be cognizant of what tool you're using and how it's using your data, and that goes to the data sharing as well. And so again, if you're talking with your client or student or other audience member, just make sure that you're covering some basics or giving them a resource in a way so that they understand how they're using it. And we know that sometimes students can be reluctant to maybe mention they're using AI in coaching sessions. Sometimes other audience members may be as well. So it makes sense for us as practitioners maybe to mention that it is a valuable tool, and as long as they're responsible in how they're using it. So for example, when it comes to misrepresentation, AI is really just a place to start, right? But you want to ensure that you're incorporating your voice and ultimately you're the one telling your own story. So that's also a good thing to, set foundations with a client as you're talking about AI. So thinking about tools, there are lots of different tools out there. This is not even the tip of the iceberg. Now there's Perplexity and a few other ones as well that aren't up here, but there are different tools and they can do different things. So it's important to recognize which ones do this. So there are some, for example, that have search engine capabilities, meaning you can go in, you can ask it a question that would require it to go search the internet. And there's other models where they don't. A lot of times the free models, for example, Claude that's Anthropic or ChatGPT, the free versions aren't going to be able to search the internet, but Copilot will, for example. So these different tools do have some different capabilities and may give you different responses as well. So again, there's plenty out there. This may or may not come up with clients, but again, just letting them know if you're talking about AI in the conversation of coaching, that you are mentioning, hey, there's different tools, think about them, use them responsibly, etc. All right, so let's get into the framework. We're going to talk about what's your story now, and we're going to have you do an exercise. So we're going to demo throughout this, but at least for the first one, we want you to try it out so that you can actually kind of see what your client might experience too. And it's also great for you to be able to tell your story no matter where you are too. So we're going to start with what's your story now. And again, this step is really just as you're thinking about your digital presence, really just trying to understand what's out there. What's the story being told about you right now so that you understand how you may want to change it, et cetera, when we get to that purpose and audience step. So I'm going to hand it over to Mike to talk you through this exercise.
All right. So first stage of the framework, what's my digital presence now, or what's my story now? So as Sheetal mentioned, we are going to ask you all to actually go through this exercise as well. But before we have you all go through these various steps, I'm going to go ahead and demo it so that you all can get a feel for what it's going to look like and the sort of information that you just want to be cognizant of. Now, the first step is going to be using an AI bot that does have internet search capabilities. Now, just to note, again, not every AI bot has internet search capabilities. And when I do the demo for you, I'm going to give you some results from multiple different AI bots, some that do have internet search capabilities and one that does not. That way, you'll get a feel for what the difference in results and responses are going to look like. Now, there are certainly some free options, Copilot, for example. However, Copilot is one of those where it's sort of a freemium, where you get for free, you can get some of the features, but not all of them. And so you will get some limited use. But for the sake of what we're doing today, and what you all might be using it with on your own, with clients, again, a free option, something like Copilot can do the job for you. Now, with ChatGPT, you also are going to have very limited internet search capabilities. I believe they actually don't have it unless you actually get the paid version. And so unless you get the paid version, you won't have the internet search capabilities, which again, we're going to demo what it looks like when you don't have the internet search capabilities, just so you can see the difference there. After that, we're going to have you all actually search for your names, whether it be Google or Bing or another search platform that you're aware of, just to kind of see what sort of information comes up when I search for myself there. And then we're going to end with you all taking the search results and then adding to the chat the 3 words or phrases that the AI bot would use to describe you. So in order to get started here, we're going to go back to number 1 in that 3rd bullet point. Now, this is going to be the prompt that you all are going to use. And I want to start by saying this, like, prompting is a skill. It is an art form. It's just not something that you just know how to do. It is something that takes practice. That being said, we do have some general guidance that we want to provide for you all, and you all can follow this to help ensure that you do get results that are most useful to you. So to go back to the actual prompt that we have here, the first sentence, you're a digital presence brand specialist with 15 years of experience. We call this giving the AI bot an identity. They're a digital presence brand specialist, and they have 15 years of experience, tons of experience. They're basically an expert at this point. Look for, and you're going to insert your name. So look for Michael Joyner Hill to determine what is Michael's current online story. This is called assigning it a task, or another way to think about it is this is giving it just a general assignment. And then we want it to write a short summary of the story based on the search results and identify the 3 words that you would use to describe. You're going to put your name. So in my case, Michael. This is called giving it a subtask. Now, the subtask is going to be this specific action item or a deliverable. So just to reiterate here and just to summarize. So here's the formula that you can use for writing a prompt. Again, general usage here, right? Give it an identity first, then assign it a task, and then assign it a subtask. Now, this is what it actually looks like here. All right. So this is using Microsoft Copilot, which does have internet search capabilities, and it's using Bing. All right. So you're a digital presence brand specialist with 15 years of experience. Look for Michael Joyner Hill to determine what is Michael's current online story. Write a short summary of the story based on the search results and identify the 3 words you would use to describe Michael. Now, I added this little piece at the end. When looking for results for Michael Joyner Hill, also use results for Mike Joyner Hill. This is simply because I'm aware that in different places, I go by Mike. Other places, I'm going by Michael. And so to try to get the most accurate results, I did give it a little bit extra of an assignment here. Now, this is what it came up with. Based on my search results, Michael Joyner Hill, also known as Mike Joyner Hill, currently the Associate Director of Career Coaching and Education at Stanford University. This is true. He has a rich background in higher education, having worked with student athletes, served as an academic advisor, and provided career coaching. Also true. Michael grew up in Detroit and overcame significant challenges to excel academically, earning a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in social work. Also true. Very proud to be from the Midwest. He's passionate about helping at-risk youth and promoting educational and underrepresented communities. All true. 3 words to describe Michael: empathetic, inspiring, and dedicated. Now, one of the things that I really like and I'd say more and more of these AI bots are getting really good about doing this, is actually providing basically citing all of their sources. So I know that a lot of this information is coming from the Stanford Career Ed website. The rest is coming from the University of Michigan and their School of Social Work website. So again, this is what it's going to look like, and we're going to ask that you all do this exact same thing. Now, before we have you all do it, though, I want to show you a couple of other AI bots and the results that you'll get. So this is Gemini. Gemini also has internet search capabilities using Google. I won't read this one, but I will point out, right, prior to his role at Stanford, lived in the Midwest. And so slightly different, but giving you similar information. It gives you a little bit more detail about the master's degree and the actual concentration and focus area I had. And then it gives you a little bit extra here about what I enjoy doing outside of work. So some of that personal information. In terms of what 3 words it would use to describe me: experienced, versatile, and dedicated. So we saw dedicated pop up twice. So apparently I am very dedicated to the work that I do and the causes I care about. Again, it gives you some information about the sources and some related content as well. Now, here's what it looks like using Anthropic Claude. You'll see here, exact same prompt. However, I need to clarify something. I can't actually search for or access current information about Michael Joyner Hill. I can analyze digital presence and provide branding expertise because we did give it that identity. I can't perform real-time searches or access external data. From there, it asks you to share more relevant information or social media profiles, search results that they wanted to analyze, those sorts of things. But this is what it looks like when you work with an AI bot that does not have internet search capabilities. So it's going to take a little bit extra work on your part to be able to get some of the results that you really want to find. Now, let's say I were to go up here and I were to search for my name, right? Michael Joyner Hill, I put it in quotes. All right, so I'm getting a lot of information here. It's my LinkedIn profile. There's a podcast that Shito and I actually did not too long ago that's popping up a lot. Social media is popping up, more things about podcasts. If I just go to all, it's going to give me some information going back to my days as a collegiate student athlete and a bunch of pictures of me, both when I have hair and when I don't have hair. A lot of information is going to be here. And so as you see, though, for this, you're going to have to kind of piece the information together. And, people are going to learn more about your story in different ways, as opposed to, again, if you were to utilize one of these AI bots, it's going to bring things together in a way that's a little bit easier to digest. All right. So now that I've gone ahead and I've demoed it for you, we want you all to do it. And so I'd say let's take about 4 minutes or so. Go ahead and do this for yourself, right? Use an AI bot. Again, choose one that does have internet search capabilities. Again, Copilot is one, but it's not the only one, but it's pretty easy and you don't have to sign in order to be able to use it. When you're doing this, I encourage you to open an incognito or a private window so it's not, pulling from some of the existing cookies or your existing data that's already in an open browser. Use the AI bot, toss in that prompt, and then search for your name, whether it be on Google or Bing or another search platform. Compare and contrast some of those results. And then once you all are done, we're going to ask you to please add to the chat the 3 words or phrases that the AI would use to describe you.
And I went ahead and put the link to Copilot. If you are just looking for that, you don't have to be logged in, you can use it there. And I will hopefully play some music while we are doing that.
No. Might have to switch to your screen to be able to do it.
After you have your 3 words, I'd love for you to share them in the chat.
It's 9:15.
sharing. Okay. You guys are thinking of work.
Experienced, passionate, driven. Experience, supportive, strategic, experienced, community focused, leadership oriented. We have a lot of folks very experienced.
To also follow up that prompt to say, hey, can you make the 3 words something I would share on LinkedIn? Or you can start to get more creative. The couple more minutes today. So take a look at those Google results. You get 3 words if you were just looking through the Google results. From your own.
Dedicated, experienced, innovative. Great. All right, we'll take about another 30 seconds or so. And as those results do come in, please do add them to the chat. So thank you. Oh, hold on, let me just get one more. Ooh, experienced, compassionate, and transformative. Oh, transformative. I really like that. All right. All right. Thanks everybody for doing that exercise with us. Now, one thing that I did not note is that unfortunately, some of the AI bots are prone to what are called hallucinations. And interestingly, as recently as 48 hours ago, when I was using Gemini and I put in the exact same prompt, the results were Michael is a cybersecurity expert with 20 years of experience. And I promise you all, while I don't use the same password for all of my accounts, I am by no means a cybersecurity expert. So that is an example of a hallucination, or it's giving you information that actually is not exactly what you're looking for. I believe there may be I think I looked it up. There is a Michael Joyner somewhere who actually has worked in cybersecurity, but that is not me. And so you just want to be really mindful. And the reason why I share that is just because the AI bot gives you a response, right? It does not mean that you don't need to do some additional fact finding and some double checking on your own. So just be very mindful of that and just exercising good discretion, right? When you are choosing to use an AI bot yourself, or when you are working with your clients, make sure that, again, they understand that they're as advanced as AI is, there are still some limitations and they need to just be mindful of sometimes the inaccuracies that could pop up. All right. So we just went over what your digital presence is right now. And so now what we want to do is shift to the next stage of the framework, and that's going to be the purpose and audience. Now, when it comes to digital presence, right, your purpose is going to include, all of your why. That's what your purpose is going to include, right? It's going to include all the reasons why you actually want to have a digital presence. So if you are working with students or professionals or other just clientele, right, perhaps they want to house work that they've done, or they want to share, right, the full range of skills and experiences for their various audiences of interest, whether that be recruiters or potential future colleagues, for example. That's exactly what they're going to want to focus on. And so it's likely that they're going to have, though, more than one purpose for curating their digital presence, right? Not only because there's different parts of their lives that they want to showcase, but also because there are various groups of people that they want to reach. And they also are keenly aware of the fact that there are a lot of people who are going to be searching for you online. And so this brings us to the second part of this step in the framework, and that's actually understanding your audiences.
All right. So there are different ways you can think about your audience online, and it's different than if you were having a one-on-one conversation, right? If you are in person with somebody or video conferencing, right? That is a little bit different. But when you're online, your story has a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary audience. So that primary audience might be that that's related directly to your purpose, right? So for your job search, you're going for promo, you're trying to figure out your encore career, whatever that is, that purpose and that audience might be your primary one. However, you also online have that secondary audience. Your client will have that secondary audience, whether that's peers, collaborators, their general network that they want to keep networking with. And then tertiary, you don't know who could come across, right? So it could be the general public or digital community that could come across that. So we have different types of audiences that will see this. And so the things you want to think about when you're thinking about your audience, if we go to the next slide, is right, who is that audience going to be? How should you format your information to address what they're looking for? What elements do you actually want to express to them? And then, what are the 3 important things you want people to know when they're searching for you or they're talking to you? If we think about our careers in general, some of the most important decisions that are made about us are made when we're not in the room. But our digital presence can be, and that's one of the key things about why it's so important that your clients get that story right there. And so that's where purpose and audience can help. In AI can help you in this process. So if you should see potentially 2 tabs at the top of your screen. Michael's sharing the slide, or Mike's sharing the slide. I'm also sharing my screen to kind of help demo this prompt. If you can't see the other tab, let us know. You may just have to change your view, which would be the upper right-hand screen, so that you can kind of see both screens. But you should see one screen, should say a meeting tab, a share screen by Mike, and a share screen by me. And so if you're looking at my screen, I'm in Copilot right now, just the free version. And I put in this prompt at the top. I'm a product marketing manager, so that's one of my many hats that I wear. So I put in here, you're a product marketing manager with 15 years of experience. That's giving it identity. In this case, I'm giving it my audience's identity. If I'm talking to a product marketing manager, I want to know what should be in my digital presence to be able to do that. So then I say, what are you looking for at a digital presence for the purposes of hiring, right? So if my purpose is getting hired as a product marketing manager, I'm letting know what the purpose, I'm letting know who the audience is, and I'm giving it a subtask, right? List the 5 bullets that might be the most important thing. And so based on what it can see, right, through the internet, you can ask it to give you the links to what it's seeing here, but it's saying here there are 5 elements. You should show clear branding, content quality strategy, social media, engagement, professional network, analytical skills, and it's giving you detail on each of these. You could then go back and forth to ask more detailed questions with this, right? Clear branding and messaging. Well, how do I show that in my, for example, it's telling you a personal website and portfolio. How do I do that there? What should I be showing? What skills should I be showing that a product marketing manager, that's a hiring manager, would want to see? And this is obviously, again, not where you finish. You just want to start here. It can be a really nice way to set a low barrier for your client before they start to informational interview or before they start to network or talk to different folks. That way they're able to kind of see that. And then they can kind of build off this as they start to have conversations or as you continue to work with them, depending on what, if their purpose and audience is as well. So let's go ahead and go to the next piece of the framework here.
All right, so thanks for going over that with us, Sheetal. So we just covered the meaning and importance of identifying your purpose or the multiple purposes that you may have, as well as knowing your audiences. And so next we're going to move on to discussing something that's really crucial to building a digital presence, and that's going to be your brand story building blocks. Now, what you see on the screen here are 7 digital storytelling strategies. Now, we're really excited about these when working with students ourselves, and we encourage you all to learn a little bit more about these, as well as how they could be really valuable when you're working with your particular client population, because these are going to be essential as you start to think about, right, how am I going to represent my story in a digital space? And so you absolutely, I think, can see a lot of value and meaning in being able to understand and gain a better sense of your story prior to being able to use an AI bot. Now, the AI bot, of course, is going to be a helpful tool in that process, and these digital storytelling strategies can work hand in hand with the AI bot. And so if you think back to, I'm going to look at number 4, for example, the 3 words, phrases, or adjectives. If you think back to the activity that I led just a few slides ago, we were actually utilizing that digital storytelling strategy, or that's at least how it can be utilized, right? You can also ask the AI bot for assistance with utilizing these storytelling strategies. Again, what we did with that 3 words, phrases, or adjectives. Now, before we do move on, I'll briefly tell you a little bit about each one of these. So the first one, address and directions, that's basically telling someone in 2 to 5 words who you are, the address, and then expand and give them some directions, which is basically explaining how you got there or how you represent that phrase. The next one being external empathy and internal story. And so you want to have someone empathize or relate to some element of your story, right? You want them to feel something, right? Have some weight to the story. Now, by creating empathy first, your audience is going to connect, and then they're going to want to learn more. And then you can move on to tell your story. The next one, most of you all have heard of it, I'm sure, are pretty familiar, the elevator pitch. And so telling them who you are, what you do, why you're unique, and your goal for telling them your story in a pretty short, concise way. 3 words or adjectives, again, we actually practiced that one before. The 6-word story, so instead of 3 words, you're using 6 words to express the main idea of your story. The rest of your portfolio is then going to go on to prove how you accomplished that 6-word story, and everything that you show should be related to that particular sentence. Explain it to an 8th grader. So look, sometimes it's hard to explain a really complex story, and so when in doubt, just simplify. All right. Convey your story so that basically anyone can understand it. And then the idea, mission, or vision statement. So if you do have a specific idea or mission of your work or vision of where you want to be, state that with a powerful impression, or for a powerful impression, I should say.
Great. So I'm going to kind of show you, before I get into the portfolio you're seeing there, I'm going to demo. So if you want to flip screens again, I'll show you kind of how you can use this. Now, before you get to the story strategy for clients, like, hey, I don't even know what my story is, there are building blocks you can use, right? That's where your values, your understanding your skills, understanding themes across your experiences, what we call, taking an inventory, can be really useful so that you can actually get to those strategies. But you can also have AI have a conversation to be able to kind of help you do this. So in this case, what I told the AI was, please use my bio. This is just my LinkedIn about summary. And I'm telling it to write an abbreviated story. Now, I didn't give it an identity here because if you're continuing in the same chat, which I am from before, it's continuing to keep that identity of a product marketing manager with 15 years experience. So I can either start a new chat or say, hey, I want you to start from scratch and take on this new identity. But in this case, I'm telling it, here's my bio, and I want you to rearrange this into 3 different story strategies. The 6-word story, and I just give it a quick, here's what it means. The 3-word phrases, and then the mission statement. And so I just briefly describe what each of those were. I did put in the chat the link to the 1-page summary, so you could also just lift that language describing what it is and put it in so the AI knows. And then I gave it my bio, so just all the paragraphs. And so now it's saying, okay, certainly here it is. So here's the way it sees my 6-word story: empowering learners, telling stories, and creating opportunities. It gave me 3 words I could potentially use: connector, storyteller, inspire, and my mission statement. Now, again, this is a place to start, not to end, to create ideas that you might just not think about. And then I also said, you know what? Maybe I want some different options. So I told it, okay, brainstorm 3 alternative options for you. So now it's giving me some different options, all based off of my bio. And again, this can make it just easier for clients. It can just lower the bar because this can feel overwhelming, right? How do I tell my story? It's a lot. So if they have kind of their inventory that they've done, so they've described their experiences, or let's say they have a resume with bullets, they could easily lift that, put it here, and say, okay, how would you tell my overall story, and make it just faster and easier to get started. And then they can have a conversation with you. They can have a conversation with people they're networking with to say, how does my story resonate? Is it coming across to a hiring manager the way I'd want it to come across? Now, if you flip back to Mike's screen, what you see here is a portfolio. This is Mario Peraza. He's a graduate student of ours, and he used AI in the manner that we're talking about to get to his portfolio. So as you can see, he has multiple strategies here. He has the 3-word strategy: designer, engineer, educator. And then you can see underneath that, you kind of have the mission statement, right? So I'm a designer, engineer, and educator who is passionate about keeping the world healthy and safe in a sustainable way. And then he was on the job market for this. So then you can see he has his resume, and then an about section, an education section, and projects. And all of that projects, resume, and education, that all is evidence, which we're going to talk about in a second, that goes back to really describing these story strategies. So he's saying, this is what I am, and then he's proving it in the rest of his portfolio and using AI as a tool along the way to be able to help him refine and think through that story. All right. So moving on, we're going to talk about the next piece, which is evidence, which I just mentioned. And evidence, again, right, if you think about that brand story being that thesis statement, you then have to support it with evidence. So if you're a hiring manager, right, you're looking for what are the results, what are, the value add this person can provide. And so that's what you want to be able to speak to, depending on who the purpose and audience really is. So when we think about evidence, we really talk about this as being the curation of artifacts. So posters, presentation, projects, research papers. If you're a professional that's in mid-career, this could be projects and results that you've worked on, presentations, etc. And then you can't just put the artifact, right? You need the meaning to go with that. So what was it about that project? What was it about the results? What was your role in the results? What skills did you have that you can then convey as part of your story that makes you whatever you're claiming in that story strategy? So again, you want evidence representing your story. So again, you want to show and not tell. Here you see I am a professional speaker versus, hey, right, I'm showing that and maybe giving the story with that there. So how could this look in AI? How could AI help you? So if you flip back over to my share screen, hopefully you're flipping back and forth. Let us know if you're having any trouble, but I am in Copilot here. And so this time I told it, I'm actually making a career pivot and I want to go from academia and career education to product marketing and ed tech. And I want to know if it can summarize the key skills demonstrated in a project as it would relate to a product marketing manager position. So if you think about, hey, I want to tell my story as a product marketing manager, I'm making this pivot, but I need my evidence to show that I have product marketing management skills, then I can go through and I gave it my description. In this case, I gave it my ILPL experience, right? Where I've been a co-founder, a lecturer, I've coached students, I've been a researcher, and I gave it the bullets. These bullets are essentially from my resume and my LinkedIn profile, but I said, hey, here are the things that I've done. And so now it goes through and it says, yeah, here's what would be related. I have the skill of strategic leadership, curriculum and content development, client and stakeholder engagement. And I can tell you as a PMM, client and stakeholder engagement is key. Digital presence and storytelling, and then research and data-driven insights, also really key. So it's telling you here are the skills from this particular piece of evidence. And then I can use that, right, to then say, okay, let me create that evidence, that meaning and the artifact, have it go together to really support my story as a pivoter, right, from academia to ed tech. And then again, you could potentially, right, go back and forth with AI, and then that client could bring this information to you and you guys can refine and go through this piece. I will say, as you're talking to your clients, questions that we get along the way are really understanding, right? Using AI is really definitely a skill. So you have to understand how to prompt, as Mike said. You and your client really need to understand how's it going to best be of use for your client. So your client may be great at storytelling. They don't need help, maybe coming up with skills, but maybe they need help being more concise, right? So you understanding your client in that way and understanding the questions they have can then help you tell them, here's the best way AI can really help you. But again, it's a skill and you need to understand where it could best help your clients. And so if you haven't upskilled in AI, you probably as a practitioner also need to be able to best advise your clients there. And I'll just pause, Mike. Any other questions that you typically get from students, just in AI in general?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, can I just take what AI tells me and just accept it as truth? Like, is this just like, basically, is this my endpoint? And so it's constantly reiterating, like, no, this is actually a starting point. But to even kind of go to something else that you said, though, it's so important, I would say, when you are working with a student to make sure that you all are just maybe having a conversation before you even dive into, some of using some of these maybe storytelling strategies that we've gone over, simply because like there's so much valuable information that you can gather from that reflective exercise and those reflective conversations that can then inform, right, the prompt that you're even using, AI for. So just really having a purpose for why you want to use AI is going to be really important.
Yeah, and again, not just students, but any client that you have, it's going to be a skill across the board because people are just still trying to figure out how to use this, not just for search, but to actually use it in a substantive manner.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to our next step in the framework.
Right. So, so far, right, we've already gone over a lot of stuff. And as Sheetal said, I know we're going really fast here. And so we do plan to leave some time at the end for some of your questions as well. So feel free to add those even to the chat now. We'll be sure to come back to them at the end. We've talked about what your story is now. We've gone over your purpose, your audience, and being really intentional about identifying your why and identifying who those intended audiences might be, and even some of those audiences that you don't even know who are going to find your profile. We've gone over some brand story building blocks and those 7 storytelling strategies. We spoke about the importance of having evidence. So actually, if you're saying that this is who you are, what's the evidence to support that? And now we're going to move to choosing your channels, right? So where is the audience that you want to reach, right? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they on YouTube? Are they on TikTok, right? Are they on Pinterest, right? All of these different places, right, are something for you to just be really mindful of, that your audience might actually be existing. And so what your presence looks like might look a little differently on those platforms. And so just be really mindful of that, right? When you're trying to think about the evidence that's going to be most powerful, think about how that's going to be best represented on the platform or through the channels that your audiences are going to exist on. Now, it's also difficult sometimes when you are working with someone and you're like, well, I want to have a presence on TikTok, but also want to have one on Snapchat and on Instagram, but that's going to be different from my LinkedIn. And so that's a really complicated process. And it is such that, yeah, absolutely, you can try to aim for some types of consistency, but there's also the reality that people are, diverse individuals with different interests and different experiences that they want to represent in different places. And that's fine. If they are creating, let's say, a website or an e-portfolio, we've seen folks have pages, that really highlight the different sides of their personalities. And so their different interests, their different skill sets. So again, this isn't necessarily a one size fits all. I'm going to put it on this one place and it's just going to, suit every single channel perfectly. And so it is iterative. Again, think through it, have conversations with your clients, try to see what works, what isn't working, and then go from there.
So if you go ahead and flip back to my screen, I'm going to show you a potential way to use this. So, depending on who the audience is, how do you know what channels they're using? And so you can get a feel for this before maybe you did some, your client, or if you're doing research too, for your client, where are these folks? So again, continuing with our marketing and product marketing example, of course, you could fill in other roles here too, but in this case, I gave it the prompt, you're a hiring manager in marketing with 20 years of experience, so give the identity. I want to know where employers are typically looking for new hires in marketing. And so that's the task. And then I gave it the subtask, can you split the lists into industry specific and general tips in a table? So I'm telling it, put it in a table and then give it these categories. So you can see it spit out a table. It has industry specific. So marketing folks might be looking on LinkedIn. They might look at industry conferences and events. They might look at specific job boards and professional associations. They might look at career services, and it's giving you general tips. But this is really, really general, right? Like everyone might know that they look at job boards, etc. So I can tell it, can you make this actually more specific to product marketing? And it's going to give me a little bit more information, but you can actually go one step further and ask it, tell me the exact product marketing conferences and events that are out there. And it will actually, depending on what tool you're using, will give you, hey, there's the product marketing summit, for example. There are specific job boards, and it can give you links. So you can continue to go back and forth with this. And then you could then, right, have a place to start. Again, not end, right? Where you could then go and look, and then you could compare, right? Is product marketing maybe different from where a digital leads marketing industry hire, might go? Maybe it's not. But you can ask it to actually list some of the professional associations as well. So you can start to break some of that out as you're trying to choose those channels. And I know there's a question in the chat. I do see it. Thank you, Donna, for asking. We'll circle back to this in just a second. So the last piece that I want to cover in the framework, if we go to the next slide on Mike's side, is the customizing and sharing your story. And so in this particular step, can you still hear me? Oh, yes. Okay. All right. I didn't see the screen change. So I thought maybe I was frozen for a second. All right. So in any case, for the last one, customize and share your story, we really want to think about, now that you've chosen a channel and you have your story, how do you actually then customize your story for that particular channel? So let's say you have your story, but you want to put it on LinkedIn, and you want to have an e-portfolio, and maybe you want to put it in a blog or somewhere. Or maybe you have if you're coding and a developer, you want to put it in your GitHub repository, you want to have your profile at the top. How do I actually then go ahead and customize those channels for each of those pieces? So again, customize and share your story. And then Mike, if you want to go to the next one, right, you're just trying to kind of customize for any and all of those channels. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and demo something here. So if you flip back to my screen, in this case, I said, hey, you're a personal brand expert with 10 years of experience. This is my personal LinkedIn headline. So I have a story strategy. I use a version of the 6-word story. It's coaching people and organizations to discover their aha moments. So that's my story strategy. But I need this headline to be adapted for different social media. So I want it for X. I want Facebook, Instagram. You could do it, for Snapchat, whatever you're using. You can do it for your own e-portfolio as well. And I want it to provide it in a table. So my headline, I gave it the headline, and then I told it provide this in a table. And so you can see it gives you the headlines for here's how you can you put it in Twitter. It gives you the hashtags there that might be useful for Facebook, and for Instagram. You can say it's using emojis for Instagram. So it is customizing a little bit. You can have this go further, right? And you could do it with your summary or your about statement. You could do it for a resume bullet. Hey, make a bullet for results and impact for a resume versus a cover story versus LinkedIn versus my e-portfolio. And you start to do that with each of your pieces of evidence, for example. Maybe you want to customize that evidence depending on the channel that you're choosing it for. And you can adapt it to the audience. You can make your prompt very long, for example, and say, hey, I'm using this piece of evidence with this headline, but I want you to customize it for a resume. I want you to customize it for my e-portfolio. Then I want you to customize it for my LinkedIn. And then you can go back and forth and refine those. And again, I would expect that person to then come back to you or whoever they're working with to then really refine that and make sure it's telling the story we think the audience needs to hear. I think client questions we get around this tend to, in that choose channels and customize your story, they get more technical, right? Like, hey, how do I, do this in my website? How do I think about this? And AI can help with those technical questions too. But Mike, any last thoughts before we take that last question that we got in the chat?
No, I think you covered it well.
Okay. All right. So Donna's question was a great one. It was any recommendations on how to improve writing prompts with our clients? And so Donna, would you want to come off mute and just say, is there anything more around that you're trying to get at? Because I can definitely give you tips, but I'm just curious if there's something specific. I know I'm putting you on the spot. Okay. So just in terms of recommendations or tips, the first thing I would say is make sure they understand how a prompt body should look, right? So making sure they understand they need to give it an identity, they need to give the chatbot that task and subtask. So the more specifics you can give, the better answer you're going to give back. So if you remember the one that I did for like, hey, where do product marketing folks, in the industry look? It gave me some really broad answers, but I could have been more specific and said, give me the exact links, give me the exact product marketing conference events, give me the exact product marketing job boards that you think are out there, right? So the more specific you can get, the better. You can also ask AI to help you write a better prompt. I've done that too if I'm not getting the answer I want. But I think the third thing is, taking a quick free course on prompt engineering or how to do it. Like I said, like Mike and I said, the one thing we've experienced with our audiences that we work with is that it is a skill. You do need to develop a skill for understanding how to work with the software and tools that are out there, just like you would anything else. If you're using Adobe Illustrator, right? You have to develop the skill to best use it in the best way possible. And these are no exception to that. So Joanne, Donna, let me know if that answers your question or if you have more questions or not. Mike, do you have anything to add there?
The last one that you said. So looking at some of the free courses, so Coursera, I know does have something that's pretty comprehensive. There are also like really reputable websites that are out there that if you just do a quick search for, you'll be able to see some guidelines about writing really effective AI prompts. And so for me, I have looked at LinkedIn Learning, absolutely. One of the benefits of being at Stanford, we do get access to LinkedIn Learning for free. And so I've used that to just kind of give me some additional insights and tips on writing really effective prompts. Is that if there's a professional development opportunity, if there is a webinar, I'm definitely trying to sign up for it just to get better at it. It's one of those things that, it does take practice to get better at. And then if it's not giving you the information that you really want, try to regenerate, the prompt that you're utilizing.
And just as we have 3 more minutes, so happy to take more questions. Just in the meantime, want to plug that feedback form. So putting that link in the chat. Please do let us know what you thought. This is helpful. And then we do have some resources for you. And I put that feedback link in the chat, but also some resources, the ILPL website, the story strategies, and of course you can contact Mike or myself if you have any questions. So I'm going to put those in the chat right now. But yeah, any other questions?
And just to plug something that Donna put into the chat, if you didn't see it, LinkedIn Learning is available through a lot of public library systems if your employer doesn't provide it. So I'm glad you said that. When we're working with our alumni at Stanford, because they don't have access to it as alumni, we often do recommend that they check out their public library system. So thanks for saying that and sharing that, Donna.
Yeah, absolutely, Donna. I actually am a PMM at LinkedIn Learning, and there are plenty of prompt engineering courses that range from really beginner, you're just starting out, to later. And so that's a great call out. And then any other questions? While I put some of these links to the ILPL website, our email, feel free to reach out, and you can find those storytelling strategies at eportfolio.stanford.edu.
And if you do go to our website and you look at our video series, you're likely to see our faces in those videos. So please, if you want a little bit of a deeper dive into each stage of the framework, that's going to be a great place to explore.
Right.
All right.
I'll hand it back to you, Melissa, to close out.
Oh my gosh, this was fantastic. Thanks for making this interesting and interactive. Sheila Patel and Michael Joyner-Hill, thank you so much for sharing this information. I'm going to add all the links that were in the chat into the email that I send out to attendees, so you'll all get all of that. Thanks again. We hope to have you back soon with some more information.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
having us.
Thanks everybody for attending. See you soon.